Welcome to Crossroads. The trade loophole used by Chinese e-commerce giants, including Temu and Shein, could soon be closed. Now look, a bipartisan group of U.S. lawmakers are proposing a new law, and this would restrict the ability of Chinese retailers to ship goods while bypassing, normal standards, while also notably not paying duties while they do it. Similar moves against Chinese e-commerce companies are actually being looked into globally, not even just the U.S., and there are findings right now of toxic products, knockoff goods. There's concerns over consumer safety. Now first, let's go to the trade loophole that Temu, Shein, and others that they're using. It's called the de minimis entry, and it's a provision under U.S. law that allows packages valued at less than $800 to enter the country tariff-free and under a quicker and streamlined process. This is what allows these Chinese e-commerce companies to sell their products for cheaper prices, right? No tariffs, don't have to pay the duties or anything like that. And they get them to you quicker because they're sending mass volumes of small packages and taking advantage of this de minimis provision. The way they do it is they cut out the middleman. They ship directly from the manufacturer, the Chinese factories, to you. And because of that, they're not shipping big packages to warehouses and otherwise. And that process, though, it was not really designed for a market like this. And so it's kind of breaking the system, so to speak. Now look, with this, U.S. manufacturers and retailers, well, they're obviously being impacted, and they're arguing that they are subject to unfair competition. This is a loophole that was not intended to be used this way. Eliminating the middleman in international mass market, huge market. And other concerns with de minimis have also been raised, like how it makes smuggling drugs like fentanyl easier because it bypasses some of the normal security. And it also looks into how it's contributing to the continuation of forced labor camps in China because, again, some of the normal systems of oversight are not in place when it's dealing with these small packages. This is where this new proposed bill comes in. It's called the Fighting Illicit Goods, Helping Trustworthy Importers and Netting Gains, aka the acronym is Fighting for America Act. It looks to tighten the rules for de minimis entries. According to it, between 2017 and 2023, just last year, the number of low-value shipments imported into the United States quadrupled from 299 million to 1 billion. And some of the proposed measures include barring certain categories of products from being imported through this loophole, right? De minimis, such as textiles, apparel, and leather goods, because again, those are problems of slave labor industries in China and other problems, including, for example, toxic clothes for kids and things along those lines. It would also establish a $2 fee per shipment for the use of de minimis for goods that are not barred from entry. And the proposed bill will make it easier for Customs and Border Patrol to seize and dispose of unlawful goods shipped through de minimis. They'll actually have the security systems in place dealing with this new mass exploitation of this loophole that was not meant to be used this way. Now, Wall Street Journal said this. They said that Shein, one of these big Chinese e-commerce companies, said it continues to make import compliance a priority. It's the company's executive chairman, Donald Tong, has called for de minimis rule changes that would create a level playing field regardless of where a company is based or ships from. Now, Temu, the other major Chinese e-commerce company that we're talking about here, it says they did not respond to a request for comment, but they note the company has said it does not depend on the de minimis provision for its success. And so, generally speaking, they say that they don't need it necessarily for their success, and they're also suggesting that maybe they should create a type of standard that kind of equals the playing field. That's from the companies themselves. Now look, this bill, in addition to a lawsuit against Temu's parent company, PDD Holdings, by the Attorney General in Arkansas, that lawsuit is kind of the other big thing going on right now. That lawsuit in Arkansas is accusing Temu in particular of using deceptive tactics that harm customers. And it alleges the company is running a, quote, data theft business, suggesting that the main market for the company is not necessarily the cheap goods, that they're actually running at a loss on a lot of these, and suggesting that maybe the money is coming from somewhere else, maybe selling people's personal data or otherwise. Now look, The allegation in that lawsuit is that the Chinese company uses spyware and malware in its app. And of course, the company denies the allegations. But the concerns over Chinese e-commerce sites are not limited to just the United States either. Other countries are raising alarms of the Chinese companies taking advantage of trade loopholes very similar to these, how they're also shipping toxic products. Because again, part of that trade loophole is it not just bypasses some of the normal costs you would pay for international shipping. It also allows you to bypass some of the security and product safety checks that would happen on larger shipments. And also they're raising alarms over other methods that could be harmful to consumers. Now Reuters notes this. They say moves by authorities in the European Union and elsewhere to end tax breaks for low-value parcels, because again, it's the same basic method that they use in the US, but they take advantage of other tax breaks and different methods of shipping low-value parcels and getting benefits through that. It's the same method. They're saying that method threatens Shein's profitability and risks denting the fashion retailer's long-term attractiveness ahead of its planned stock market debut. It says this is raised by investors focused on that sector. It notes as well that Shein, which sells $5 tops and $10 dresses online, confidently filed early in June for a potentially blockbuster initial public offering, an IPO, in London, according to Reuters last month. It notes the fast-growing China-funded group's ability to convince investors of the soundness of its business case. Again, the method of doing these things, and don't worry, it's not going to get swept out from under us, will determine whether it is able to match the $66 billion valuation it achieved in fundraising round last year. It notes that critics of Shein, including some lawmakers in the United States and the UK and Britain, argue it uses customs duty exemptions on low-value packages to undercut rivals on price and avoid customs inspections. It says the European Union as a whole is discussing abolishing the duty-free limit, currently set at €150, as part of a customs reform proposed in May of 2023. In other words, they're talking about getting rid of that loophole altogether, even further than what the US is talking about. Now look, it's not even just the UK and the US and the EU as a whole. Germany is also raising some alarms over what they describe as, quote, dark patterns. According to Heiss, it says this. In Germany, consumer advocates in particular have set their sights on Temu. They accuse the e-commerce giant of unfair business practices such as arbitrary discounts and manipulative designs, dark patterns. Further, it says that Temu and Shein are causing existential fears in the retail trade in this country, Germany, with their competitive prices for goods, which they often do not even have to pay duty on. After Temu and Shein issued a cease and desist declaration to German consumer protection organizations in May and promised to make compliant channels and contact options more visible and to refrain from using dark patterns, it notes that a complaint is still pending against Temu from the European Protection Umbrella Organization, BEUC, for violations of the Digital Services Act, the DSA. It notes also the European Union Commission has sent DSA requests for information to both e-commerce giants, Temu and Shein. Now look, it's actually the same thing in South Africa. In South Africa, the local authorities are right now looking to implement new taxes on these Chinese companies in order to, again, level the playing field when it comes to pricing, because their local companies cannot compete on these companies that are taking advantage of this tax loophole. Business Tech said this. They said the South African Revenue Service, SARS, says it will implement interim tax changes from 1st of September 2024, coming up very soon, that will impact online retailers like Shein and Temu, with more permanent changes to follow in November. From the 1st of September, it says, the taxman will apply a flat 20% VAT customs duty in line with global standards. So you got to start paying that customs duty there as well, even in South Africa. And look, again, it's not even just Europe, it's not just the US, it's not just Africa, it's Asia as well. In Thailand, for example, there were similar concerns there. And authorities in Thailand, they're looking into whether the Chinese companies also are not paying their fair share in taxes, and by doing so are bypassing the normal things that other companies have to deal with, thereby making it so the playing field is not even for local companies. Same thing in South Korea. The government in South Korea, they're also looking into the business practices of Chinese e-commerce companies along these same lines. And the concern there is the same as in Africa, same as in Thailand, same as in Europe, same as in the United States, that again, there are certain trade loopholes and these companies are taking advantage of them on the extreme. Now look, with that said, the Chinese companies are raking in huge amounts of cash globally. I'll be talking more about this after I come back from a quick break.
Experts agree, one of the best ways to protect against financial uncertainty is to diversify your portfolio. Learn how physical gold and silver can secure your retirement funds from today's economic challenges. With a gold IRA from American Hartford Gold, you can safeguard your wealth with no penalties or taxes when you transfer your current qualifying retirement accounts. Call now and our precious metals specialists will send you a free information kit, no cost or obligation. American Hartford Gold, a trusted industry leader with an A+ from the Better Business Bureau, has a 5-star rating from thousands of happy clients. Whether you are getting physical precious metals in a gold IRA or delivered to your doorstep, we offer only the highest quality gold and silver. For your peace of mind, we also offer a no-fee buyback commitment, a low-price guarantee, along with free shipping and free insurance. So don't wait. Call the number on your screen today and secure your financial future.
Welcome back. Chinese e-commerce giants Temu and Shein are really on the rise in the United States right now. And this is in part thanks to a trade loophole they've been using called the de minimis entry, which allows packages valued under $800 to enter the U.S. tariff-free and under a streamlined process that lets them bypass some of the customs inspections. However, there's now a proposed law in the U.S. from a group of bipartisan lawmakers that would close this loophole. And it's not just the U.S. either. There are alarms being raised globally in Europe and Africa and parts of Asia about these Chinese e-commerce giants and the unfair trade environment they're creating. And also the greater problems like the safety of their products and, frankly, whether consumer data is safe as cybersecurity concerns are growing around the Chinese laws controlling apps like these. Now look, as these concerns grow globally, these Chinese companies, they're raking in massive amounts of cash globally. Business Insider noted that Colin Huang isn't a household name outside of China, but he's one of the world's richest people. And it's that Huang, aged 44, is China's richest person. He's the founder and former CEO of Pinduoduo, a gamified online marketplace connecting buyers and sellers. It's popular in China and has a market cap of more than $190 billion, giving it a higher valuation than Uber or Sony. But notes that Huang's fortune exploded after this, with his net worth hitting a high of just over $70 billion in February 2021, per the estimates from the Bloomberg Billionaires Index, though it's since been dropped. Now look, in the United Kingdom, in the UK, Shein, they're readying up for a potential $63 billion listing on the stock market there, where the rumors are circulating that the company was even looking to acquire warehouse space, but the company, of course, denied that. Now, in other parts of the world, Shein, they're opening physical retail stores and not just settled with, online business. The model for this is already in its beginning phases, including notably in parts of Africa. Now, on this note as well, in Australia, Temu and Shein, they're dominating the local retail market, where the company's brought in close to $3 billion in sales, again, just in Australia last year. And again, focus keeps shifting to the methods the companies are using to do this. How are they accomplishing it? Well, again, it's through many of these loopholes. And many of them are raising alarms among regulators. This includes even the way the apps are run, notably, including a recent move notably by Temu using a controversial free cash giveaway. Again, gamified business, right? But look, aside from the many concerns over the business side and loopholes and otherwise, there's actually a lot of concerns also about the quality of the products and whether these could actually be dangerous to people who wear the clothes or play with the toys or otherwise. This includes the problem of toxic products from China. Daily Wrap notes this. They say the German organization Ökotest commissioned an examination of 21 pieces of clothing from Shein. The results indicate that 8 of them, 8 of 21, almost half, contain traces of toxic substances, including children's and babies' clothes. For example, it notes a girl's dress contained antimony, which can be absorbed through the skin and through the sweat, and if it enters the bloodstream, it is highly toxic. And there's a lot of other ones as well. The Chinese platform responded to the reports of the test results, and they said this: Shein prioritizes the safety and health of all its customers, which is why we require our suppliers to adhere to strict guidelines and high standards that comply with European and global norms, such as REACH, the company stated. But like the article notes, this is not the first time questionable quality clothes have appeared on Shein. At the end of May of 2024, the results of another study conducted by the consumer organization Test Akits were revealed, and it indicated 10 out of 25 pieces of clothing contained harmful substances. They were unfit for wearing in contact with children's skin. Shouldn't let your kids wear those things, in other words. And similar concerns are being raised by consumer safety regulators in the United States. It's not just in Germany looking into this. In fact, the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission had many alerts on this. This was one of the many recent ones. This is from the website directly of the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission. It says children's nightgowns recalled due to burn hazard, violation of federal flammability standards, sold exclusively on Temu.com by Lovely Angel. Another one, just another example, again from the Consumer Product Safety Commission. It said toy guns recalled due to eye injury hazard, failure to meet federal safety regulations for projectile toys, sold exclusively by Temu.com by Yogeo, and that recalled toy guns failed to meet federal safety standards as they do not have a blaze orange tip that is required by the mandatory toy standard to differentiate toy guns from real guns. And their projectiles pose an eye injury hazard to children because they do not meet the requirements and the mandatory toy standard for projectile toys. So if your kids are playing with them and they're shooting them at each other, well, they could shoot their eye out, right? Now, look, remember also why they started requiring toy guns to have painted tips. That was when I was a kid, right? It's to show that they're toys and not real guns, because there's a concern that kids might be playing around and point a gun at a police officer, and the police officer might think it's a real gun, and that puts the kid's life in danger. There's real concerns for this. In fact, there were cases in the U.S. previously on this. There's also concerns that criminals can buy them and use them as, fake guns for robberies and things like this. Say, oh, well, officer, it wasn't a real gun, it was just a toy, right? Look, it doesn't end there either. And part of the consumer safety issues also have to do with the trade loopholes the companies are accused of using. The loopholes, they don't just let them avoid paying, certain taxes or duties. It also lets them avoid some screening procedures designed to look for harmful products. I'll be talking more about these safety concerns, as well as how the Temu model is even now facing backlash even inside of China, and what that means also for these companies. That'll be only, though, on EpochTV.com. So if you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, X, Rumble, there's a link in the description below. Click on that. You'll get access to the rest of this episode and also our whole library of shows, our hard-hitting documentaries and others on issues that really matter. Frankly, like the Chinese Communist Party's 100-year plan to defeat the United States. The CCP is one of the biggest threats to this country. They're using things like propaganda, even video games, entertainment, movies, culture, to subvert and influence the next generation. This unrestricted war against our country is one of the scariest but least understood issues of our time, because it's not tangible. It's being done through soft power and ideological subversion. Now, I've spent over a decade investigating the CCP's subversion, and it's such an important issue. I made a documentary called The Final War, and it exposes the 100-year plot of the CCP to try to take down America. If you'd like to find out more about what the CCP is doing and how it's plotting this, watch The Final War. You can find the link to that in the description below, and I'll show you all the trailer before we go exclusively to EpochTV.com for the rest of this episode. I'll see you there.
The greatest threat facing the United States is the CCP.
The Epoch Times investigation team had studied the CCP for years, but what we uncovered was yielding evidence beyond our imagination.
With Chairman Mao, with the Prime Minister, Our talks have been characterized by frankness.
The Clinton administration said, oh, don't worry about it. This will be a poison pill for China.
China's strategic goal is to make sure that the U.S. has 4 enemies, and one of them must be a terrorist group.
We are giving of our life's blood so that the Chinese Communist Party can survive and thrive.